First up with Kane Corns, thanks to Sportsbet, I'm Sarah, Ollie and Kane. The Lions bounce back in a big way. They're through to another preliminary final. And I see you're pumped. You've got the hat on.
Yeah, I've got the hat on. I'm all aboard. The Lions was there last night. It was magnificent. Why do we ever doubt this team? Every time they've been challenged this year or they've performed poorly, they've bounced straight back. So it's a credit to the resilience of the group. I think the leaders were outstanding last night and they're through to another prelim final. With all the injuries and the adversity and the difficulty of their draw this year, it really is a remarkable effort.
And the signs, they did look good early for the Suns and Ben King. He had 2 goals on the board in that first term. But then Chris Fagan, he pulled a master stroke and put Harris Andrews onto him. It really did prove a turning point in the game.
It did. I didn't like the Gardner matchup early, and you can see here Ben King was dominant. It looked like he was going to go on and kick 5 or 6 and have a big finals performance, but he just called in the big gun, the All-Australian centre-half back, the dual premiership captain, the co-premiership captain, Harris Andrews, who did one of the great defensive jobs you will ever see. So not only did Ben King pretty much not touch the football after the first 10 minutes of this game, Harris himself had 20 plus, 7 intercept marks and big spoils. He comes off at the right time. And I thought the leadership that he has shown, and I reckon there's a real desire to celebrate his teammates. Every time when you're at the ground live, you can see it. Someone does a smother or gets a tackle on or a spoil. He's the one that's going over and celebrating the little things. I reckon it's been a big focus of his. So I just thought it was a great captain's game last night and a really good move early on because Chris could have waited a little bit longer with that matchup, but he just pulled the trigger and had great impact on the result of the game.
There's long been comparisons between Cam Rayner and Dustin Martin. And look, Dusty's in his own stratosphere. But last night, Rayner did manage to break a record of Dusty's, and that's broken tackles 8 times. He proved too strong for the Suns.
You couldn't lay a glove on him. You just couldn't. And I just thought his physical impact on this game, not his biggest numbers that he's ever had, but some of this stuff. And really, his tackle, he just looks at him and goes, all right, you want to try and tackle me? Even bigger opponents like McAndrew, good luck to you. So I thought it was an important game for him because last week he was criticised pretty heavily over some of his body language and not coping with the tag and a bit of flopping stuff. And there was a lot of commentary about that. So a sign of maturity that he put his hand up, he addressed last week's performance and then came out and just physically asserted himself on this game. And that's the real strength of the Lions. We've spoken about it for a long time, but the talent that they've got in the front end of the ground, the medium to small forwards, and they were everywhere last night. We know about Zach Bailey, the All-Australian. Loman's back into form. Charlie Cameron slightly turned the corner, although he didn't have a big scoreboard impact last night. Archie's down there. They're absolutely everywhere, but I think Cam Rayner is the most destructive of those. And, yeah, it was a terrific physical performance from him last night.
And then there's a Norm Smith medalist called Will Ashcroft who goes all right as well. We know no Lachie Neale, but Ashcroft seemed to relish a more elevated role in that engine room.
I just reckon he's better without Lachie Neale, as big a statement as that is.
Wow.
And that's not taking anything away from Lachie, but there's something about him that thrives on the midfield. He's a midfielder. I mean, and when he goes to half forward, yeah, he can play his role, but not like this. So the difference for his game last night was his ability to explode outside. So win the ball, but this sort of stuff, like his run, I thought his speed was really strong last night. And then went forward and really impacted the score. So kicked a couple of goals, nearly double-digit score involvements. And I just thought he was enormous. So they've just got so much depth through that midfield that even when they are significantly challenged and they're missing a dual Brownlow medalist, that the others go, I'm going to relish this midfield opportunity. Rayner, Bailey and both Ashcroft boys really stepped up last night.
Well, speaking of Lachie Neale, the dual Brownlow medalist, I thought it was season over with that calf injury, but it appears he has other plans should the Lions make the grand final.
I'm giving myself like a 50% chance, but I think the physios and the doctors and the rest of the medical fraternity are giving me about a 1% chance. So I think I spoke about it, I think on radio this afternoon, but I think in 20 years' time, I'd be kicking myself if I just didn't try everything and in my power to get up for it. And if the dominoes fall my way and that 1% does come through, then it'd be an amazing story.
I really love this because what it does, it keeps him engaged with the group and it keeps him motivated to be out there training, to be engaged with the group, to have that little carrot to chase. Now, he's not going to play in the grand final like this. It's a great media story for us, Sarah, and we'll follow it with interest and any little clues that we can pick up. And there'll be shots of him in hyperbaric chambers and all of that. I love those types of stories at finals time because it means so much to so many people and you want to do everything to be out there. He's not going to play, but I love the fact that he's chasing it and he's not giving up on the dream. And what that will do, it'll keep him engaged with the group for the next couple of weeks with just a slight hope that a miracle could happen.
Just a word on the Gold Coast Suns. I mean, outclassed, outplayed by 53 points at the Gabba. But the week prior, they were, I guess, not overcome with emotion or the enormity of the game against Fremantle and recorded their first ever finals win. What are they lacking, Kane? I feel like they are on the right trajectory, especially with Damien Hardwick at the helm.
Yeah, they're not lacking a whole lot. It's just another preseason into. I mean, Ethan Reid probably dropped 8 easy marks across the final series, like almost uncontested marks inside forward 50. I'm telling you, Ethan Reid's not going to be dropping those marks this time next year. It's another preseason. It's him reviewing the vision, working out what he didn't do well during the final series and getting to work on it for his third preseason. Jed Walter's going to be hungry and hopefully angry that he wasn't there, so he'll be motivated. They had some players like Humphrey perform poorly in the second final after performing well in the first. That's a reminder of how good you have to be and how consistent you have to be a great player. We've seen what John Newcombe has done this fight. Now he's almost going to a new level because your reputation is built on finals. So it's just another preseason. It's embedding the game plan again. There might be some personnel tweaks and adjustments, but they have all the talent on their list that they need. It's just about getting that group to play another season together, another preseason, and they're going to be absolutely fine. I'll be shocked if they don't win a couple of premierships in the next 5 years.
I know you've got your Lions hat on, but all year you've been saying, or at least claiming them as my Hawks. But how good were they? They are playing with so much freedom. They are fearless. And Josh Weddle, my word, he is proving the September wildcard, isn't he, for Sam Mitchell?
Well, this is an absolute credit. I love professionalism and players that do absolutely everything. And when he's on the sidelines, clearly he has put in so much work that he can return in 2 big finals and perform like this. Like he just hasn't missed a beat. The way that he's covering the ground with speed, his endurance is there. I mean, he's had a fractured back. Like, how is this possible that this guy, who we've been hanging on every scan that he's had and waiting for him to get to the next step, has just come straight into 2 finals and done this and not missed a beat. So well done to Hawthorn's high performance and conditioning staff. Well done to Sam Mitchell for taking a slight risk and picking him. But most of all, the credit goes to Josh Weddle because he was so important. He gives them the flexibility that they need. Started on the wing, can go forward. If they need him, he'll go back. If he needs to ruck, he'll ruck if there was an injury to Lloyd Meeks. So I just think this guy in 2 or 3 years' time, and I've said this a couple of years ago, we're going to be talking about him as the best or a top 5 player in the league. And it's a credit to the work that he's done when he's on the sidelines, when no one was watching, to give himself an opportunity to win a premiership.
So from one Josh to another, and Josh Ward had somewhat of a breakout game. He was singled out by Sam Mitchell post-match for his performance. And this is a Hawk who I feel, Kane, has been quite maligned at times, but he was excellent.
Yeah, so before the game, it was going to be, I thought you'd know what you'd get from Dawson, and I certainly thought you'd know what you're going to get from Newcombe. But who was going to be the ones underneath those from each team that was going to stand up? And it was Adelaide's that went missing, and the moment got far too big for them. I'm talking about Saligo, I'm talking about Berry, I'm talking about Peatling, I'm talking about Neil Bullen. And it was Hawthorn's, Worpel and Ward, who were awesome. And that was the difference, particularly early in this game where they had centre bounce dominance, kicked the first 3 of the game from stoppage. And him to have 30 in a final, top 10 draft pick, has been in favour of Cam Mackenzie. But I thought it was a breakout game for how clean and how tough he was inside the contest. And he should take a lot of confidence into this Friday night's prelim.
Time now for Volcano.
Well, I just think as a footballer, Sarah, the last thing you want to do in a team game is make it all about you. And Josh Rachele had been out for 10 weeks, and the first glimpse we got of him on the broadcast ahead of the game on Friday night was this. Like, you can laugh, but it's genuinely embarrassing. And when you look at the history of Josh and the teeth gag and losing his place in the side, I think he's responded really well to that and been challenged. And there's still thought with the tongue out during the national anthem. I just thought, I don't know what Adelaide were doing, these players. I'm not sure whether the message, and it may have been from Matthew Nicks, just to relax, have fun out there, enjoy it, embrace the moment, but they got it all wrong. And some people will say that's pedantic and little things, and we've got to let players show their character. Yeah, no worries. You can do all of that. But when you've been out for 10 weeks and the first impression you want to make is some gag about a beard before the game and Phil Thorpe poking his tongue out, I looked at it as soon as it happened. I thought, if they lose and they play poorly, this is going to come back to bite them in a big way. Now, they didn't win a quarter in the final series after finishing on top of the ladder and dominating the home and away series. And some players probably need to not leave their house for a few weeks, I reckon, after the way that they performed during the final series. So to see that, I was just slightly disappointed in it.
So you can only have fun if you go on to win. Is that right?
Yeah, well, I think it's about knowing the right time and the right place. I'm not sure that was the right time and the right place after Rochelle had been missing for 10 and the Adelaide Footy Club were under the pump, and making that moment all about you. That's all you're doing. You're making it about you. I want the camera, the attention, the talk back, the feedback on me, not on the team. And it's a team game. And in that moment, I just thought both of those players got it wrong.
More holistically, though, what did you make of Riley Thilthorpe's second final? Because we saw those moments in the first final that he'd like to have back again. But I thought he responded well with 3 goals. You're not entirely on the same page, though?
I thought he was good forward, yeah, and I thought the 3 goals he kicked were clutch, and they came at clutch moments when his team needed them, particularly the 2 set shots. I thought his ruck work was poor. I thought he got out-muscled and beaten badly against Mabior Chol in the ruck, and when he was in the ruck for some of these contests, I just didn't think he was physically strong enough. And we're seeing there was a 10-minute period throughout the third term. This one led to a goal where he's just allowed a second ruckman in Chol, who's not known for his physicality, to dominate the ruck work and the follow-up. So, yeah, I didn't think it was his best work in the ruck. His forward stuff was fine, but that's unacceptable for a player of his size and strength in a big final. And that moment there late was what we saw the previous week. I know the game's done there, but you got to keep his head up. And, I think it's going to take some time for him to recover over the final series that he had.
Now, I know you, and I know you like to keep receipts, and I know all year you were saying the 3 tools up forward with the Crows isn't going to work in a big final. It was something even coach Matthew Nicks was pondering after the straight sets exit.
I know, it's a fair question. It was one that was thrown around all year. Like, Ken, you can't play this many tools. You probably find me at times questioning whether you can or not. We did some stuff this year where we showed it can work. In finals footy, we'll go back and have a really good look at it, but maybe there is a need for a little bit more speed and a little bit more defence going the other way, but we didn't give our forwards a chance tonight.
Pretty honest from Matty Nicks, and I should have been an accountant, Sarah, because I'm very, very good at keeping receipts. Like, make sure when tax time comes around, if you've
You're the guy.
you've got a work expense, you've kept that receipt and you claim it at tax time. That's what I've done. It worked against the poorer sides, absolutely, no worries. The bottom 8 sides, the bottom 10 sides, it worked, the tall forwards, but it was never ever going to work when the history would say that tall forwards don't dominate in finals. Now, there's the exception to that, what Gunston did. I don't necessarily see him as a tall, but largely it is what Lohmann and what Bailey and what Rayner has done and what the Smalls do in finals. That's the history of it. So to have 3 of the slowest, most immobile forwards in the one forward line was never, ever going to work. So, and it's difficult because you've got a club legend in Taylor Walker who commands the respect of the group. And when he's there, the players want to kick him the ball. But this team's got to move past Taylor Walker. It has to be Fogarty, who you gave 7 years to in a contract, and it has to be Phil Thorpe's forward line. It can't be this guy because this is what you get. He can't move, Taylor Walker. And against Scrimshaw and Sicily, who are much smaller in size opponents, but more nimble, he was just found out and exposed in a big, big way. So look, I'd be
these
really
are almost
surprised if Taylor
moments,
Walker,
aren't they, Kane? Like,
yeah,
almost kicks his
almost.
goal. He
But
almost kicks
if he's
his
not
goal.
doing that, that's his strength though. If he's not finishing these, then what else does he bring? I mean, that's he has to be nailing those. Otherwise, he's a liability defensively. So 28 intercept marks that Collingwood took the previous week. Hawthorn ran all over them from the back half and set their ball movement up. So it's got to be 2 tall forwards. I think Matthew Nicks would be, realising that now, as should everyone else.
So the first minor premier to go out in straight sets in 42 years. It's not something that Adelaide fans will enjoy reading. But do you think for the Crows playing group, their mentality, will they be scarred from this experience, or is it just you cannot buy finals experience and they will be better for the run?
It's hard to know. Like, there's teams that have been smashed in grand finals, and I've been part of that, which really knocks you around. I'm not sure what the impact of finishing top and dominating, having two home finals, and then really capitulating will have on the group. I suspect significant, and it's going to take some time for the players to recover. But I guess it gives you an insight into how far off they are. And this is a group that haven't won a final for 7 years. Certainly, the club hasn't won a premiership for the best part of 28 years. So these fans are pretty impatient, and this was a great opportunity for them. One that, with a harder draw next year because they finished on top, their injury list was so thin this year. They're probably the least club affected by any significant injuries other than Rankin and Rochelle. They were really healthy. So they're not going to get that luck again with injury next year. So there'll be some challenges that they have to face next year that they wouldn't have faced this year. And they're probably one or two midfielders, and we've probably found out a key defender short for them to be in the mix to win the premiership next year.
Yeah, so you do think they need another A grader alongside the likes of the skipper, Jordan Dawson, who looked a little bit proppy. And you mentioned Rankin. I feel like they've never needed him more in the last two games.
Yeah, I mean, he was the one. It was always going to be difficult. Dawson had a poor final series, but yeah, I mean, Sid Draper is a high draft pick. He will, I think, be an A grader. It won't be next year, but they'd love to get him in with his speed around the footy. But there was a bit of sameness through the midfielder. Berry just doesn't get enough of the footy. Saligo's the same. Peatling is a depth player. Isaac Cumming gave them really nothing, and Neil Bullen they would have wanted a bit more from his experience. So yeah, they had some disappointing performers.
Now, Kane, somehow you've made it into this show. Let's have a look at you at Adelaide Oval the other night.
See you, mate. See you, buddy.
As Kane Cornes gives
Excuse me. Hey,
a good farewell to someone who had a sledging before the game.
see you, mate.
What's going on there?
Sarah, I just couldn't help myself. This
Really?
clown was absolutely giving it to me during the middle of the national anthem. He was screaming at me in front of everyone to stand up. And I was standing up. I'm like, mate, I am standing up. So I don't know if it was a height joke or what it was, but this middle-aged Crows fan with his Guernsey on, when he took off halfway through the third quarter, I was not missing the opportunity for him to get back under the rock that he's been under for the last 7 years, and he left early, and I think I got the last laugh.
Yeah, I guess you did. Hey, Kane, the Bombers aren't even in finals, but the discussion around their skipper, Zach Merritt, it dominates footy discussions at the moment. Clearly he wants out. Hawthorn looks like a potential destination for this star who has 5 best and fairest to his name. He's contracted for a further 2 years. You have said that it lacks a bit of courage, the whole situation around Merritt.
Yeah, I just think it's an easy out for him. I do. I'm interested in your thoughts on how you read his tactical play here and whether this will damage his legacy as an all-time Essendon great. I'm certain it will.
Well, I'm intrigued to see, firstly, does he show up at the Best and Fairest on October 2? Because he's going to win a 6th Crichton medal. I mean, he is a legend even of the Essendon Football Club. And we've spoken before, we feel like Merritt is a player that could play for 400 plus games, such as his professionalism, Kane. But clearly he's fed up. And unfortunately, it's not a new storyline, is it? We hear about this around this time of year almost annually.
All the time, don't we? Yeah, I just think it'll be a fraction hollow for him. If he goes and joins Hawthorn and they win it, well, it's an easy out. I think it's a selfish move from Zach, who's committed to the club long term. See out your 2 years. And you're right, he'll play till he's 38. So then you've still got 6 years left after that, possibly, to go and chase a premiership. But commit to the club. You've committed to the young players. You've spoken publicly about the standards and how motivated you are to change the whole perception of the Essendon Footy Club. And it's got a little bit tough through injury, but I was firmly of the belief, as I spoke about to you, and maybe I got this wrong halfway through the year, but they were on the right track and the standards had started to change. And there's some good young players who are driven, who are hungry, who are competitive, that I'm certain will turn this footy club around. And he was central to that. It's got a little bit hard and he's out. And I just don't really respect the way that he's gone about it.
Time now for the temperature test thanks to Sportsbet, and there's just 4 teams remaining in season 2025, and it looks like you've got Geelong meeting Brisbane, Kane, in a grand final.
Yeah, I just think Brisbane have jumped up a rung from what I saw with the talent that they've got in their lineup and the weapons that they've got. They'll really challenge, I think, Collingwood's defence, and I think I think Brisbane's defence will also be an issue for Collingwood's forwards, and they can match them through the midfield. So Collingwood at home, fresh, that gives them an advantage. But they're the best 2 teams in it for me, Geelong and Brisbane, and I think Hawthorn as well. As I said, for a number of weeks, they don't have a weakness, and their midfield got going. So my Hawks are in a good spot as well.
Now, I've got a big smile on my face because it's preliminary final weekend. For the purists, this is as good as it gets. And look at that, 2 huge prelims, Kane, at the MCG. It's going to be an incredible weekend of footy. Oh, I feel like it's going to be the Cats and Collingwood. I just feel like Chris Scott's team are humming on all cylinders. But you think the Lions are going to get through?
I think they might. Yeah, I think Geelong and Brisbane, but who would know? What an unpredictable final series it's been. But you are right. Prelim final weekend is the best weekend in world sport. Can't wait for it. Both of the MCG. It's going to be on. And our last show next week to discuss it all, which I look forward to.
Well, actually, you shouldn't ask me about my tips. I think I'm actually 0-6 this final series. So don't ask me and don't follow what I've been saying. But that's been First Up with Kane Corns. Thanks to Sportsbet.
What's gambling really costing you? For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.